Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls Golden. What if, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back with a brand new what if. It's going to be what if Deku was trained by King Kai. And this is actually going to be a movie. And if any of you are subbed already and watch my community tab, y'all know that I'm doing this completely without a script. I will put like a little side note. I have I will say a My Hero timeline up just so I don't skip things on accident, or you know what I mean, because normally I do crazy stuff with these what ifs. So, and especially with this one, I mean, expect something nuts, because I mean, how is he supposed to train with King Kai? But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. But yeah. So, but like I said, if you guys don't like non-scripted videos like this, because obviously everything's not going to be completely polished or everything like that. Nothing's going to be perfect. Normally when I script things, I try my best to script them exactly how I want them to sound and this and that. So, if you don't like this type of video, no hard feelings. Feel free to leave. But also, if you're like, you know what, I'm not really into stuff like this, but I'll give it a listen, then do that as well. It's all up to you. All right, I'm not gonna waste any more of your time, and we're gonna get right into the what if. Let's get it. In a world of My Hero Academia, there was a boy by the name of Azuku Midoriya. And in the normal canon universe, this boy was deemed quirkless. In this universe, though, things ended up very differently. The boy by the name of Azuku Midoriya was deemed to have special properties or special powers, and he was born on a planet called Earth. In this world, there were gods, Kais, all alike, that were basically overwatching the universe. And the one known as the Supreme Kai saw the boy's potential, wanting to actually help the universe more. As the Supreme Kai, he decided to reach out. He looked into the boy's history, the boy's past. Azuku Midoriya was only 3 years old at the time, but it didn't seem like he had family. Supreme Kai began gathering information about the child, learning that the child wasn't abandoned by any means, but unfortunately, his parents were not around. His parents were actually, irresponsible, and they put him up for something called adoption on Earth. So, this boy was kind of just in an adoption center and in and out of homes all the time. So Supreme Kai decided for himself to adopt the boy, quote unquote. He goes down as basically he's gonna look like a normal human, and he adopts the child by the name of Azuku Midoriya and decides that this boy could be a great candidate for the Kais, but he feels that he does not have the time to train him himself. So, he reaches out to another Kai, other known as North Kai, or in his case, he likes being called King Kai. So, he uses his Kai to teleport and bring the boy to the blue man. When he arrives, King Kai questions what the Supreme Kai is actually doing here, and he tells him about this boy. That this boy seems to have potential, and ever since he made an oath all those years back, centuries ago, that he would be more active, he decided to go down himself to a place that they even know as Earth. King Kai is actually very surprised by this, saying that they haven't been to Earth since all those years ago, after all those, the Saiyans passed away, and basically this society began turning into a quirk one. Supreme Kai tells him that he knows, and it's very surprising as well. When he went down, it seemed like this Azuku Midoriya had potential, just like those other Earthlings and Saiyans did all those years ago. King Kai decides that this young boy would be trained by himself. That he, as the North Kai, would train him, just like how he did a student of his all those years ago. Supreme Kai is very, very happy to hear this, and King Kai actually questions how he knows that this kid has potential anyways, until they look at the young boy bouncing around on King Kai's planet, realizing that this kid is jumping around at 10 times gravity. Yes, I know the kid, a 3-year-old kid, has very little weight, but even so, this is pretty impressive. Meaning that this kid growing up in a gravity of this like immense stature would show really good dividends for his training. So King Kai decides that he would basically teach the kid all he knows in terms of intelligence, fighting, and all that when he turned about the age of 6. 3 years pass, and King Kai has been nurturing this child for a while now, and he kept his Earth name, but he just went by Azuku, because King Kai felt that going by that last name, isn't the best, so he decides to just call him Azuku. When he turns 6, the training begins, but initially it's pretty light training. Nothing crazy, just him getting acclimated to the planet more and more, and just beginning to scratch the surface of martial arts. When he turned 8, he actually did a little training session where he had to chase around Bubbles, the monkey that was actually on King Kai's planet. But for Azuku, this felt more like a game of tag than it did anything else. He didn't really see it as training, because at the end of the day, he grew up around this. When you're 3 years old, everything behind his 3-year-old self, he didn't really remember. All he remembered was King Kai. So he continued. He would chase down Bubbles and try to smash Gregory with a mallet and all that type of stuff, until he was about 12 years old. And that's when King Kai finally began training him in the art of ki control. Even Azuku was pretty confused by this. He didn't really understand the idea of ki control, because all he's been really doing is, chasing around a monkey and trying to smash a bug with a mallet. And King Kai tells him he will explain. This is how it will work. Ki control is within one's inner body. You can harness it if you focus, but it's a lot more than that. You need to have the physical strength, the physical capabilities, and many other things. And ki control, it's my specialty, so don't worry, kid. Azuku responds, telling him that he's excited to learn as long as he's the one teaching him. And King Kai says of course he'll be teaching him. So their training begins. Azuku begins learning how to basically control ki and stuff like that through meditation. He would meditate and focus his energy the best he possibly could. King Kai began teaching him how to fly and all that other stuff, but flying was one of those things that on his planet was a little bit harder, because obviously he was acclimated to running and standing on the ground at 10 times gravity, but he wasn't quite acclimated to trying to fly up. So a couple times Azuku definitely flew up and slammed right back to the ground. Ah, my head. King Kai then laughs at him, saying that he'll get better as time goes on. And that's what happened. Azuku got better and better with ki control. Yes, he's nowhere near the strength of King Kai currently, but he definitely is getting better. Actually, when Azuku got to the point where he felt decent at ki control, King Kai told him that he was going to make him clothing just like himself. Like you? Wait, but I don't really like your clothing. Come on, kid, don't be like that. Can I at least have like a green undershirt? I mean, it kind of matches my hair. Look at you. Why'd you pick red? Red doesn't match you. You're blue. King Kai tells the kid to be quiet and smacks him on the head with a mallet and walks away and makes him clothing and comes back. And that clothing is obviously the same in the thumbnail. He has the green undershirt to match his hair and a more bright yellow trim around the King Kai or the North Kai symbol, and he was officially like an apprentice of the King Kai. But it was a lot more than that to King Kai. It was like his son, and he began questioning himself that this boy, he's 12 years old, and he hasn't had much real interactions with anybody else besides, well, him, who he's a Kai, a monkey, and a bug that can talk. Hey, that's not very nice. Be quiet, Gregory. So, he decides that he wants to train this kid and send him back to his homeworld. Not permanently, but he wants to send him back to basically give him an option to do what he wants to do with his life. So, King Kai brings this up to Azuku, and initially Azuku kind of panics, saying that he's never even talked to anybody else, but King Kai tells him not to worry, that he'll do just fine, but that won't be for a while. He's been overseeing Earth, and Kami has as well, which Azuku knows is actually the god of Earth, and King Kai tells him that there are hero schools out there, and he can pull some strings with Kami, and Kami can reach out to some of his advisors around Earth to get him into one. Azuku's actually pretty excited by this. I mean, obviously, he can never really judge how strong he is based on other people and stuff like that, because, I mean, he's only with King Kai, so all he can really do is judge his strength based off of King Kai. So he's excited, but also nervous at the prospect that there's probably people way stronger than him. But what he doesn't know is he's on the right track to being the strongest hero alive. The training continues, because you gotta bear in mind that he's only 12 years old right now. So they continue training, and Azuku basically perfects his ki control, and begins starting to learn the best technique that King Kai has to offer, besides, well, another one. King Kai tells him that they're gonna learn the Kaioken. The Kaio what? King Kai explains that the Kaioken helps strengthen one's body, and when used at certain multipliers, basically can strengthen your body twofold, threefold, and stuff like that. But King Kai warns him that when you use this power, it will basically bring a toll on his body. But as he grows up, and as he trains more and more and gets better ki control with Kaioken, this will become less and less of a problem. So, for the next literal 4 years, that's what Azuku does. He trains with Kaioken and just gets used to the form. He actually comes up with an idea that he wants to stay in just Kaioken times 2 and see how long he can hold it. He began doing that every so often after training sessions, and this actually helped his body. Yes, it did hurt his body a bit, but it helped him in terms of getting even more control, helping his ki control and his Kaioken control. So, basically around the age of 15 or 16, he wrapped up his training with one last technique that King Kai wanted to teach him, and that was called the Genki Dhamma. The Genki Dhamma? Is that orb you make? King Kai explains that yes, precisely, but it's an orb built of pure energy, and that it's based off of your pure heart. King Kai points at his heart and says that Azuku, you are definitely pure-hearted, but that's not just it. It also is based on your thoughts, your mind, and everything that is going on. You never let that darkness ever creep into your heart. And he explains that this power, this massive Genki Dhamma, other known as the Spirit Bomb, is a way to cleanse someone of complete evil. You mean kill them if they're evil? Yeah, more or less. Azuku says that's very interesting and says that he would love to learn it. So, the training for that technique begins as well. He begins learning the Genki Dhamma, and it doesn't take as long as the Kaioken, because, well, the Kaioken's a different animal. And we're talking about someone that, well, didn't have much experience in the first place with ki control. So now that he has a lot more experience with ki control, like tons more, he basically can do the Genki Dhamma now pretty easily. I would say not as good as King Kai, but with more training, he definitely could do it as good or even better. Like I said, this boy has potential, and there's a reason why Supreme Kai reached out to him. So, Azuku now is about 15 or 16 years old, really depends, and King Kai decides that it's now time. Azuku begins to panic but be excited at the same time, but he's kind of nervous. King Kai explains to him that he's going to a school in some place called Japan, and it's on Earth, his homeworld. Azuku nods, and King Kai explains that it is a school by the name of UA High School, but they also have already started, so he will be a quote-unquote transfer student. But he tells him not to worry, and that honestly, this is more of, well, like training for him. And this will allow him to decide something that King Kai wants to ask. Azuku is confused. He asks what he means by that, and King Kai explains that he wants Azuku to eventually become a Kai, like him. Azuku is shocked by this and asks if he really thinks he could do that, and King Kai says, that of course he can, but he doesn't want Azuku to feel implied or forced to be a Kai. That if he doesn't want to be a Kai and he wants to go back to his homeworld to be a hero, he can do that as well. Azuku actually gets kind of teary-eyed from this, and King Kai tells him to man up and hits him with a mallet because, King Kai's getting a little teary-eyed as well, seeing off his, not only his protege, but also practically his son. So, King Kai calls for basically King Yema to send Azuku back, which King Yema is still kind of not very happy that a mortal or basically a human is training in the other world, but King Kai says that he's a Kai in training and winks at Azuku, and King Yema then says, that it's fine since he's a Kai in training. So, he gets sent back. He gets sent back to Earth basically to join UA. And he's actually met by someone by the name of Kami. Kami, who is the current god of Earth, is actually a green human? And Azuku asks, I don't mean to be rude, but are you a green human or are you an alien? And Kami kind of laughs. Don't worry. Yes, I'm something called a Namekian. So, don't worry about what you call me. Call me Kami. Or Dende. Dende's fine as well. Azuku says that it's nice to meet him, and Dende tells him that, UA is waiting, and he already reached out and basically told them that he would be joining UA. So he arrives, and when he arrives, Aizawa greets him into the classroom and basically tells the class to shut up because they're too loud and annoying, and he'll expel them all. Okay, listen up. We have a transfer student, and Yeah, that's about it. Come say your name, or whatever. Oh, hi, I'm Azuku Midoriya. It's nice to meet you. Everyone in the class begins asking, oh, like, what's his quirk? Like, what's your quirk? And Azuku just tilts his head. Quirk? What do you mean by... And as Aizawa, knowing the situation, cuts him off. He has some sort of power quirk. The kid doesn't really understand it. Don't worry about it. Aizawa basically nods at him, telling him to sit down, and he does. But a boy in the very front of the class with blue hair stands up and asks, hey, is it really good that a student is coming this late into the year? Aizawa then tells Tenya Ida to basically just sit down. That this boy is very talented, and maybe even more talented than all of them. If you really want to see it for yourself, then how about we do a little training session? Everybody, go out to the gym, and I'll instruct you on what we'll be doing. They all head out, and basically just meet at the gym. Aizawa explains to them that this is how it's going to go. Azuku will fight everyone at the same time. They are all stunned by this and floored, and Azuku's actually happy at the prospect that he gets to see everyone's powers at the same time. I mean, so he doesn't have to waste his time, talking and being like, hey, what's your quirk? Hey, what's your quirk? Or so he decides that this is a way more fun version of that. Aizawa sees that he's getting excited and can tell that this kid is the real deal. And Bakugo Katsuki, who is actually was the winner of what they know as the UA Sports Festival, approaches. You really think some damn nerd can take all of us at the same time? He can't even take me on. Aizawa looks at him and smirks. Okay, how about this then? You and him go one-on-one. If you lose, you're expelled. Bakugo is actually kind of shocked by this, but tries not to show that emotion. Azuku looks at him and then looks at Aizawa, but can tell that Aizawa has no intention on expelling anybody. And if he does, he can kind of tell that he has other plans. So, Azuku lines up and waits and asks if all of them want to fight him at the same time, or do they want to see Bakugo go first. And the class says that there's no way he can beat Bakugo, and that Bakugo is one of the strongest in their class. So how is that even possible? So they decide, that it would be more fair for Azuku if he just fought Bakugo. What they didn't know was they were very mistaken. Bakugo comes charging in at insane speeds using his explosions, but insane speeds to Azuku are not insane speeds basically to the class. He watches as Bakugo basically charges at him in slow motion. Azuku has been training in 10 times gravity and been running around chasing bubbles and trying to smash Gregory with a mallet since he was like 8 years old. And those animals and insects are very fast. So when Bakugo comes in, Azuku slides under his arm and gut punches him immediately, kicking him away into the wall. Now, should I continue fighting Bakugo, or would all of you like to join in as well? Aizawa smiles, and this is the first time actually anyone has seen Aizawa smile, but they are so intimidated that they didn't even see it. Go ahead, class. Join in. So they do. Tenya comes charging in with a Recipro burst, trying to kick Azuku, but quickly Azuku catches his leg, sweeps the other, and pushes him to the ground. Momo comes in with a bow staff, he catches it quickly, and spins the bow staff himself. Wow, you use a bow staff too. He whips her leg with it and pushes her to the ground. Kirishima, with his hardening quirk, charges in as well, and using that bow staff, Azuku begins chopping at his basically body-like armor. And Azuku's pretty impressed that this kid can basically stand up to all this punishment that he's hitting him with. So, Azuku proceeds to basically knock him out as well. 3 others then come charging in: Mina, Jiro, and Ochako Uraraka. They basically tried to make it so that Ochako can hit him, or basically touch him, so that he'll float and basically will leave him susceptible to attacks. But instead of moving, he stands still and he waits. And they charge, and she does touch him in the arm as he basically kicks away the other 2. He begins floating up. Oh, so this was your plan. That sucks. The people who are left ask what does they mean that he lost, there's no way he can win now. And as Kaminari gets ready to shock him, he says, "It sucks, because if this was your only plan, it failed." He begins flying, and he punches Uraraka, kicks Kaminari, and then begins to beat down the rest of the people. But when I say beat down, not really beat down. As y'all can tell during the fight, Azuku did go very easy on them. I mean, besides Bakugo, he kind of punched him in the stomach really hard. But that's beyond the point. He mostly did leg trips and simple stuff like that. Kind of like what Goku did with Chi-Chi in the World Martial Arts Tournament, where he just shot a gust of wind at her and basically knocked her out of the ring. It would be more like that, because Azuku doesn't necessarily want to hurt these people, because he can tell that, well, they're his classmates and he wants to be nice to them. So all of that occurs, and Aizawa deems him as the winner.
Okay, listen up. Obviously none of you are ready to face him. He's clearly had better training. So from here on out, training will be amped up.
The class is shocked by this and kind of frustrated, because obviously to this point they've been training pretty hard, but now they're gonna have to train harder. So basically Aizawa tells them all to head back to class, but he stops Azuku before he goes as well.
I have a question for you, kid.
Yeah, what is it, sensei?
It's true that you're Akai's apprentice?
Yes. Are you the one that Kami reached out to?
No, he reached out to the principal, who is like this smart rat. Don't tell him I said that, but that's what he is. But yeah, he reached out to the principal, and that's why I know about you. It's interesting that we have Akai's apprentice on Earth, or at least on our planet. It's kind of still mind-boggling to me that we even have other gods. I don't get it.
Yeah, I can see how that's definitely confusing. Aizawa tells him that, yeah, and then they basically just head back to the classroom. When they arrive, Aizawa explains that starting tomorrow, they'll be training, but their training won't be normal. They'll have internships to train them. Aizawa explains that the UA Sports Festival was a way to basically get internship offers, but obviously Azuku doesn't have any because he wasn't in the UA Sports Festival. Azuku isn't really worried by this because, I mean, well, he knows that Aizawa must have a plan for him. So Aizawa basically hands out all these letters and basically just tells the class to be ready, that tomorrow they will be, or by the end of the day and tomorrow, they will basically be choosing and going off to their internships. So everyone does so. I mean, obviously Azuku doesn't have much, but Aizawa just tells him that he'll handle it and not to worry. So he does. Azuku goes back for the day, or basically just goes up to the lookout to stay because he, well, doesn't have like a home on Earth by any means. So he kind of just goes up to where Dende is and basically talks to him. and he learns more and more about Earth and all the stuff that he actually missed out. So, and then after that night, Azuku heads back down to UA. When Azuku arrives, basically he enters class, and Aizawa begins explaining everything that they'll be doing. That he'll be sending everyone out to basically the train station, and that they will head off to the agency of choice. Everyone heads out except for Azuku, and Aizawa explains the agency that he will be going to.
Yeah, so I pulled some strings, and I got you an internship. Actually, with one of the top heroes currently.
Really? Who? Azuku is then taken away in a car and basically sent to an agency. And when he arrives, he obviously doesn't know who this person is, but has heard extremely good things. He is actually approached by another boy, and he doesn't look too much older than Azuku. Hey, my name is Mirio Tagata. Oh, Azuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you too. Here, come on, Sir Night-Eye wants to talk with you. They enter, and it's Sir Night-Eye. Azuku doesn't know much about him, but has heard extremely amazing things, that his agency is practically flawless. He enters, and Night-Eye basically says that it's an honor to meet someone that's a Kai in training. You know I'm a Kai in training.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of part of my quirk. I'm able to figure out things. It didn't take me very long to figure it out, kid. You came from literally nowhere.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. So, for the next little while, Night-Eye basically talks with Azuku about everything that goes on, and that he's not necessarily here to go on patrols and do all that other hero stuff, but he actually is here because he wants to train with him. He personally wants to train with him on top of Mirio and the other sidekick. And Azuku obviously is completely fine with this, and they're basically sent to a more of like a battleground type-esque place, and he begins to spar with Mirio, and Night-Eye and Bubble Girl begin watching. Mirio charges in, and when Azuku throws a punch, his fist goes right through him. Azuku actually smiles at this prospect, thinking that this guy must be strong, and his well-said quirk must be something crazy if he has this much control. So, the fight continues, but Azuku makes sure that there is no gap in his defense. That every time he threw a punch, he basically made it so that Mirio couldn't get out of his permeation or his phasing like state. So he basically it was just one long stalemate, and it really was whoever made the first mistake. But Azuku realized this and decided to turn up the ante, turning on a base Kaioken of ×2 right when Mirio goes to strike him, and he's so fast that it lands right on his jaw, cracking him and throwing him against the wall. Azuku runs over and helps Mirio up. I think that's good for now. We've been kind of going at it for a while. Azuku looks to see that they've actually were going at it for about 25 minutes of nobody hitting each other. It was kind of like one big shadowboxing session, but like with an actual partner. Mirio actually didn't even realize this and is surprised. But what Azuku didn't know is Mirio was literally at his limit. He kept cranking up his power, aka One for All, to keep up. But all Azuku did was just spark a red aura and immediately was able to basically knock him out of the fight. Seriously, Azuku, that was amazing. What kind of power is that? What's your quirk? I don't necessarily have a quirk. Mirio and even Night-Eye is surprised that he's not a quirk. He doesn't have a quirk. Yeah, for what I know, I don't have any quirk. This is just power that was taught to me when I was a child. They're stunned by this, completely stunned. And Azuku basically explains who he was trained by. And Night Eye, which he isn't very surprised by this, knowing who these people were, but Mirio is just in awe, listening to what Azuku has to say. That he was trained by this North Kai, other known as King Kai, in the ways of the Kaioken and other various things like that. Wow, do you think I could learn? Azuku kind of laughs at this and says that it would really be up to King Kai if you were able to learn it, because, well, he doesn't feel, he's comfortable with Kaioken, but he doesn't feel comfortable enough to teach it. And Mirio asks why he isn't comfortable enough to teach it, and Azuku explains that one little misstep and his body could go pop. And Mirio actually is surprised. He remembers back to what All Might said not too long ago, that with One for All, if your own body isn't ready for it, you can basically explode all your limbs off. So it reminds him of Kaioken, or it reminds him of One for All. Wow, that's really interesting, Azuku. Maybe one day King Kai will hopefully allow me to train. Yeah, of course. I could always ask him. King Kai then chimes in and tells Azuku to not get the kids' hopes up, because at the end of the day, Azuku is on a whole nother level. Azuku basically telepathically tells King Kai that he apologizes and that he will make sure not to get the kids' hopes up. Even though, well, Azuku is kind of younger than Mirio at this point, but that's beyond the point. So Night Eye then begins showing him the ropes of the agency, showing him all this hero technical stuff in terms of we have the support unit and the people that go on patrols and all the planning. He even shows him someone by the name of Overhaul, someone that runs one of the most powerful gangs in Japan, known as the Shiha Zaikai. Azuku is interested by this, asking more and more questions, but Night Eye doesn't really have much more information than just that. He says that Overhaul has been, been really hard to find these past years, so he doesn't know much. But, it would help if Azuku basically tried to, figure it out. Azuku tells him that he will go chat with someone, and maybe he can find out a general location, or maybe even some sort of idea. They all thank him, and Azuku tells him that he will be right back. They ask him how is he going to leave, and if he needs a car to pick him up. And while in the basically open-ended training ground, he flies up into the sky. They're all pretty shocked by this, actually not knowing Azuku can fly, and Azuku just takes off to Kami's lookout. He lands and greets Dende, and Dende basically already knows what he's going to ask. Yeah, so do you know about this Overhaul fellow? Yes, actually. Overhaul. He is a very notorious villain here, and he's been quite a problem because ever since he basically took the reins of the gang. But in terms of location, that's a little bit harder. They move a lot. But I can tell you that they are somewhere around this area in Japan. Okay, I appreciate it. I'll be going now. As always, if you need anything, Kami, let me know. Azuku leaves, and Kami, other known as Dende, is pretty happy by the response and continues with his work. Azuku then arrives back at Night Eye's agency, and he tells Night Eye of the general location that he basically found. So Night Eye begins basically planning multiple patrol routes for that area. But unfortunately, Azuku isn't necessarily allowed to go on those patrols. Night Eye explains that unfortunately, Azuku doesn't have his hero provisional license, and getting one is, well, a little bit more difficult than he would like, but he actually will reach out to see if he can get one as soon as possible for him. so that he can actually help. Really? I mean, do you really think I can get one that quickly? I mean, I feel like I haven't been on this planet very long. Night Eye then explains that people of the higher-ups, or really smart heroes, know of his existence. AKA, they know he's a quote-unquote Kai in training, so it shouldn't be too difficult, as long as the Hero Commission can basically justify giving the hero license, or the provisional hero license. Azuku agrees and decides that he'll help out the best he can from within the agency. And Night Eye agrees, thanking him, basically saying that all he really needs to do is just keep a lookout for different cameras on locations that they're going to place and other things like that. So he does so. But as he's doing this, he hears something. King Kai begins speaking with him. Hello. How's it going, Azuku? Oh, King Kai. Yeah, it's going good. What's up? Well, here's the thing. We have a bit of an issue on Earth. I'm basically telepathically connect you to Kami. So, speak with him. He basically just transfers Azuku's mind to Kami, and Kami begins to explain that, well, something is going to happen very soon in Japan. A big occurrence that, well, is going to cause some havoc. He explains that major villains are actually going to attack Hosu City, and that he's been looking over Japan a little bit more than usual because of this odd feeling he was getting, and that it seems that they're making an attack right now. Azuku tells him that he technically doesn't have permission to go do anything, but Kami explains that if he's quick enough, it's not like anybody will notice. He agrees and activates Kaioken and flies off at insane speeds, and he comes to Hosu City and he's floating above it, seeing that Nomus scour everywhere. Whoa, those things look really creepy. A flying Nomu tries to grab him, but quickly Azuku grabs his arm and blasts his face off, killing the Nomu. Yeah, these things are barely human. What are these things? He flies off again, seeing all these Nomus and only going after the Nomus that are really giving trouble to certain pro heroes. So he dives down, killing those Nomus off without really being spotted, using higher levels of Kaioken, we're talking times 3, times 4, to basically dash around as fast as possible without being seen. So he does that, cleaning up basically the streets as quick as possible, and then heading back to Night Eye's agency. He basically gets back just in time to sit down and look at the cameras, and Night Eye walks in. How's it going, kid? Yeah, it's going good. Don't play dumb. I know what you did. Okay, listen. Okay, yeah, you caught me. Alright, you caught me. Night Eye then tells him that it's fine, and that he gets it, and it's not like he's going to just rat him out to the Hero Association or whatever, so he doesn't really care. But to be more careful next time. He can't just go around and basically be reckless. Azuku agrees and says that he would have never done that unless it was urgent, and Night Eye says that he understands. So, for the next day or so, Azuku does whatever he can to help the agency, but then a call rings in, and it's for Night Eye. Night Eye tells him that unfortunately, they gotta part ways, and that someone in that attack at Hosu, someone part of their class, perished. Azuku is pretty saddened by this. Yes, he hasn't been around these people yet very long, maybe only a day or so, but to hear that already one of his classmates have been killed in the heat of battle hurts him deeply. The fact that he really couldn't do anything. All he's known really throughout his whole life is a small planet. 3 people, or not even 3 people. A god, a monkey, and a bug, or an insect. And it was hard for him to grasp the idea that someone died. So he was sent back to UA, and Aizawa began to break the news.
I'm sorry, but Tenya Ida was killed by the hero killer.
The whole class is saddened by this, and a lot of people begin crying. Azuku is also sad, but he doesn't shed a tear, but he wallows in his own sorrow for a while. But Aizawa tells them all that the hero killer was luckily captured, so that will be his last life he will be taking. The class is still saddened by this, happy that the hero killer will be brought to justice, but is sad that their own classmate had to have died in such a way. But Azuku begins to question, how was he even put in that situation? How did that even occur? What happened in this boy's life that would have put him in a situation that the hero killer wanted to defeat him / end his life? But he stops thinking about that when Aizawa begins explaining what is going to occur from now on.
Like I said, I want strict training now. So that's what we're going to be doing. Normally we have a final exam. Then we go, and I was going to take you all to a training lodge for the break. But this time I want to do something a little different. I feel like it's unsafe. I feel like you aren't ready if another villain attack does occur like this. So, what we will be doing is be moving all of you into dorms. I'll be talking to your parents over the next couple days. All of you will be moving in, and then we'll go from there. But keep in mind that once we start our break, it's going to be strict training. We will have a written final, and then no practical. So all of it will just be training. I hope you are ready, Class 1A.
Everyone says that they are ready to do anything they have to do to get to the point where they know this will never happen again. Aizawa then tells them that it's now time to prove it. So for the next 2 to 3 days, they all study for the written portion of the final exam, and then they basically go on break. But this break won't be exactly a break. It'd be just a break from normal classes. There's still going to be regular training every single day, including the weekends, to sharpen their quirks. So that's what they do. For that next week or so, they're training. They're training. But Azuku actually doesn't train with them. Aizawa gives him permission to actually go back to King Kai's planet to more or less train over there. So he does. He goes back. He's sent there back by Kami, and when he arrives, someone is actually waiting for him. Who's this, King Kai? King Kai then explains that this right here is his old student by the name of Son Goku. Son Goku introduces himself and says that it's a pleasure to meet him, especially because King Kai hasn't had a student in he doesn't know how long. King Kai tells him to be quiet and that it's not because of him, it's because of the, decline or incline of society. Goku says that he really doesn't understand any of that because the whole evolution aspect of what just happened to society on Earth kinda confuses him. King Kai agrees because Goku's basically a knucklehead, and Goku kinda gets mad at what he was saying. Azuku then asks him why he's here, and King Kai explains that Goku will be able to help him train even more efficiently. Goku explains that there's something known as a gravity chamber, and he's sure that with technology on Earth, it could easily be replicated. Not only that he has many techniques that he'd love to teach Azuku, but obviously he can tell that it's not logically, doable at this time. And Azuku agrees, saying that it's not like they have years of time to work. and Goku knows that is to be true. So what Goku does is teaches him simple things like even more ki control, the Kamehameha, and other things like that. But after some more time, Azuku has to go back down to Earth, because at the end of the day, he, is still sort of enrolled into UA. So he arrives, and when he arrives, he sees that a lot of his classmates got stronger, which is fantastic. And Aizawa explains to him, basically, that all the training that he had them go through. Yeah, that's pretty good training, Aizawa. Actually, I wanted to speak with you about something. He basically takes Aizawa to the side and asks if UA could develop something called a gravity chamber. Aizawa is confused by this, and Azuku explains that a gravity chamber will help training immensely in the future, and it would take, a good amount of time to basically make it. And Aizawa's still kind of confused, and he asks if he means like a multiplication factor of Earth's gravity. And Azuku says yes, that as a child he actually grew up on a planet that had 10 times Earth's gravity. And when Aizawa hears this, he understands how he's so strong. Like, this kid has been training at 10 times his weight than what he was on Earth. That's absolutely insane. So Aizawa does so. He talks to Nezu about something called a gravity chamber, and Nezu reaches out and tries to basically make it happen. But in the meantime, classes start up once again.
Okay, class, listen up. For the next week or so, we'll be working on super moves. You guys were just training your raw power, and now I feel like it's time to work on something more. So, if there's no questions, I'll be sending all of you out to the gym right now.
As he says this, though, a loud boom can be heard out the outside of UA. Alarms begin to blare, and everyone begins to freak out. They all head outside to see UA being attacked by villains. Hordes of villains storm into UA, and Aizawa tells them all to stay back and stay protected. He jumps out and begins fighting, but what he doesn't know is that there is something behind this attack. This attack is far more than some normal villain scuffle. This is led by the League of Villains. The League of Villains have come to find the man by the name of Mirio Togata, or Togata. Mirio was their goal. They knew that he had one for all. So their invasion began. Pro heroes all around began to protect, but these villains were no normal villains. They were pretty strong. They somehow got stronger than ever before. And then also some of Stain's basically proteges, quote unquote, enter the field as well, and these villains were on another level as well compared to these just nobody villains. The teachers begin to struggle a little bit. Nothing crazy, but they definitely were. But that little struggle turned into a big one when a man by the name of All For One appears.
Where is Mirio? We will make you all have a quick death.
All Might then appears with his signature,
I am here,
and tells All For One that this is the day he gets defeated. All Might charges at him, striking All For One, but he's able to be pushed away easily. All For One scoffs, saying that All Might is just weak, and that he was nowhere near the power he once was. All Might is pissed, because he knows this to be true, but he doesn't care. He continues fighting All For One, and their fight created shockwaves around the school. The teachers tried to hurry and finish the fight with the smaller villains to evacuate the students, but Azuku decided to take action to his own hands. Kaioken times 2! Azuku charges in at the small fry villains, defeating tons of them. If you want an image for this, think about when Madara fought basically all those ninjas, all the shinobi. That's what you want to think about. Because Deku, or Azuku Midoriya, is on a whole nother level. He begins defeating them, and the teachers watch on as this kid is just dismantling the entire small fry, basically all these villains. The sheer gap between the normal teachers and Azuku was apparent. But after he defeated them, Shigaraki Tomura, the predecessor, the person that was going to take on the power of All for One, stepped up to the plate. Now, who are you? Shouldn't I be asking you that? I think it's time for you guys to leave. You're a cocky brat. But you won't be cocky when I turn your ass into dust. Azuku smirks at this, thinking that maybe he'll finally be able to have a battle, like, worthy of being called more than just training. He charges in, striking down Shigaraki, and one hit smashes him into the wall. He begins beating on Shigaraki, not even giving him a chance, until he touches Azuku's arm. You're dead now, kid. Huh? He looks to see that Azuku's arm is not disintegrating. What is that? Azuku smiles, saying, My key control. I didn't think this would be useful, but I guess Goku was right. What Goku taught him, he was able to teach himself before the Tournament of Power pretty easily. Kind of like how when they fought Lavender to basically negate the poison, that's what he did here. He put on a key-like cloak, so when the disintegration touched him, it didn't work. Azuku quickly slammed Shigaraki, throwing him to the other teachers as Aizawa cancels his quirk, grabs him, and cuffs him with quirk-canceling cuffs. All for One sees this and is shocked that Shigaraki was defeated so easily.
Who is that kid?
All Might then punches him in the face.
Do not lose focus on who's your real opponent.
Their fight continues on, and All Might begins to gain ground, until All for One lands a cheap shot on All Might. But luckily Azuku is able to grab All Might, getting him out of the way and sitting him down. Let me take your place. You rest, All Might, yeah?
Huh? But you're just a student. This is my job.
It's okay. You can trust me. Aizawa puts his hand on All Might's shoulder and nods, basically telling him to trust what the kid is saying. Azuku floats into the air and stares at All for One, dead in his mask.
Oh, so you want to fight me now? It seems like your little quirk is floating. Or maybe you have more than just...
Azuku cuts him off. I don't even have a quirk. But I'm going to beat you down so bad that you'll never do something like this ever again. Azuku is pissed. He not only had someone die on his watch, according to himself, because that's what he truly believes, he's seeing the teachers, his classmates, everybody in jeopardy, and this pisses him off. He remembers back to what Goku told him to protect Earth no matter what, and that when he was alive, he would give his life for anything. Goku told him stories while they were training, when he fought Beerus, when he fought all these terrible villains. Yes, he loved to fight, But at the end of the day, that love to fight didn't matter as much as his love for Earth. The people there. The people he loved. Azuku would ask him, how could he find that love for a planet that he was born on, yes, but he never really was there. Goku explains that one day that he'll find out what that love is and what it will mean for him. Azuku, while staring down All For One, realizes that this society, this hero society, meant more to him for some reason. That heroic side of him began to come out. Seeing his classmates in danger. Seeing his now friends in danger. Seeing teachers and agencies and everything, and these people that are just living normal lives, the life that he wished he would have had, in danger. He's fighting for something greater now. He's fighting because he wants to keep and maintain peace. He wants everybody that has a normal life and enjoys it, enjoys their family, enjoys the company of others, to hold on to that. And All For One was the definition of be ridding of it. So he charges at him, slamming his hand into his face, pile driving him into the ground. All For One grabs Azuku's arm, thinking that maybe he can steal his quirk. But like Azuku said, he didn't have one. He begins beating on All For One, senseless, until All For One sends tendrils through his legs, and it does some damage. This is really the first time Azuku has ever felt real pain. And he can feel that fighting spirit surge through him. He's felt this before. On the brink of wanting to quit on King Kai's planet, Azuku has felt this. But this is more. This is different. There's more to just having a fighting spirit than just wanting to fight. So he brushes it off, shatters the tendrils that basically cut into him, and he began his assault on All For One once again. And then blasted him with a ki blast in the chest, knocking him out unconscious. All Might, the teachers, the students, everyone stands in shock. Even the few villains that are still conscious are shocked as well. All For One, in a last-ditch effort, opens a portal and sucks in the main League of Villains members and basically saves Shigaraki Tomura and, well, his other teammates, I guess, of the LOV. And All For One knows that he's done. That little last bit of consciousness he even had drained him. And All For One perishes. He realized that this was not part of his plan. This boy, this green-haired boy with the power of what seemingly felt like a god, was not part of his plan. So he decided that if he was able to protect Tomura, maybe his plan could be fulfilled through him. Unfortunately, he would be dead, though, and not be able to see what his protege would come up to. Unfortunately, Azuku isn't able to get to the portal in time, but even the teachers are pretty happy that he was able to defeat All For One. So, after some time, UA basically gave their students some time off. I mean, after a massive battle like that, I feel like you would have to. All Might then ended up going into retirement because, well, his one-for-all powers were practically depleted. They weren't even embers anymore. They were just some tiny match. It was barely an ember, barely a fire by any means. So he went into retirement, decided to take his teaching way more seriously, and Azuku finally realized what he wanted to do. He wasn't sure initially. He didn't know if he wanted to be a Kai, if he wanted to be a hero, or what. But the next couple days that they had off, he went back to King Kai's planet and told King Kai what he wanted. I don't want to be a Kai, King Kai. I don't want to. King Kai cuts him off, hugging the boy, saying that at the end of the day, King Kai knew of this decision and knew that this decision would happen. Azuku asks that he's not mad, and King Kai says that he would never be mad. That at the end of the day, that he is his boy, and that he is practically his son. So, whatever decision he makes, he'll be happy with. Azuku thanks him, and King Kai tells him that it's no problem and to come visit from time to time if he wants to train or do anything like that, and that the people in the other world would love to train with him as well. I will, I promise. So, Azuku is sent back. He leaves and Kami takes him back to the lookout and thanks him for all the help on Earth. Azuku and basically Class 1A starts up classes once again. And Aizawa basically explains that they are going to be going for their provisional hero license.
Listen, there's a big test. Normally it's for second, third years, but I've decided that you guys are ready. We've trained a lot, and I feel that you are ready for this test now.
Aizawa then tells them that they'll be heading out right now. But as Azuku is about to leave, Aizawa stops him.
Kid, you don't have to take this test. You're actually not allowed to.
What? I'm not allowed to? Wait, what do you mean?
Because this.
Aizawa shows him something, and he already has his provisional hero license. Azuku smiles widely and is pretty surprised, thinking that, trying to think about, wait, how did this even happen? And Aizawa explains that, for one, Sir Night-Eye already basically made a request for it, and also, he just beat all for one. He deserves at least that. Azuku thanks him and tells him that he's eternally grateful for the help, and Aizawa says that should be his line, to be honest. But if he wants to go watch his classmates try their best in this provisional hero licensing exam, that he's welcome to. Azuku agrees. He says he would love to go watch his classmates try their best to get to where he is right now. And Aizawa obviously agrees and takes him with him. They all ask Azuku basically if he's excited, and Azuku shows them all the card, and all of them are shocked, but not necessarily surprised. They basically tell him that it's not a surprise because obviously he beat all for one, and he's been a huge help ever since he's come to the school, and even Sir Night-Eye vouched for him. Yeah, I guess so. It's really cool that I was able to get this.
Yeah, Mito, bro. It's so cool. But don't worry, we're gonna catch up to you.
Kirishima tells him, and Azuku just smiles and tells him that he has no doubts that they will. So they arrive at the provisional hero licensing exam, and Aizawa and Azuku head up to the stands where Miss Joke is sitting. Obviously, she does her whole ha ha ha, marry me, Aizawa. Sorry, I'll be honest, I don't find Miss Joke very funny at all, but I feel like that's the gag. But at the same time, it's I don't like her character. Yo, don't hate me, bro. But yeah, okay, enough of that. Sorry, that was a little off topic. But so the licensing exam obviously begins just like normal. They have the little red dots on them with the balls. So that goes about normal, and most of the class, like I said, most of the class passes, and even passes the next exam after that. So they all get their provisional hero licensing exam. Well, except for Bakugo and Todoroki. I don't see them getting it because there's not much that's changed in terms of the canon. So they would most likely still have to go to the extra classes. So can we get, F in the chat for Bakugo and Todoroki? So with that being said, they all go back to UA. And when they arrive, they talk about work studies. And that now they're able to do a lot more. Azuku actually gets a message from Sir Night-Eye about a work study, and that he wants him to be part of it. So obviously Azuku accepts. I mean, why wouldn't he? And the next day he goes off to the work study with Sir Night-Eye. He welcomes him in and says that they actually have tracked down where Overhaul is specifically. Oh, really? That's great. When are we gonna go, get him?
Slow down a little bit, kid. Yes, we're working on a plan currently. So we'll be teaming up with another agency, and it should be easy enough, ideally, if everything goes to plan.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Tell me whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. Sir Night-Eye agrees, and basically they plan for the next 2 to 3 days exactly what they are going to do, and on that 4th day, they all are ready to go raid the base of the Shiaha Zaikai. They all stand and wait until the police officer or the police captain reads the warrants, and a giant monster comes blitzing out, trying to basically stall them so that Overhaul can get away. Quickly, the big monster begins basically swatting at the other heroes, and Azuku, Mirio, Night-Eye, and these other heroes are told to just head inside. So they do. They all run inside and basically search for Overhaul. Mirio goes ahead, being able to phase through basically all these brick walls, and Azuku realized that Mirio's been acting different. That it's like he's gone through something. And he even asked Sir Night-Eye about this, and Sir Night-Eye says that Mirio found Overhaul, but didn't take action because he told him not to. And well, Overhaul has a little girl captive. Azuku is shocked by this, but realizes why Mirio feels this way. So he follows Mirio. But I mean, obviously Azuku can't phase through walls, so he just breaks them. So he just blasts through the walls while he chases Mirio, and then eventually they come to a corridor. And there he was, Overhaul. And he turned toward them, and in a very daunting voice began laughing.
You really think you can beat me? Come on, kid.
Overhaul then looks and sees Azuku, and he knows who Azuku is. The boy that trained with a Kai, with a god. Overhaul is nervous. The one that defeated All For One. He's heard about him. Everyone has heard about him now. Well, not everyone, but it's more of like underground knowledge. And Overhaul realizes the predicament they're in, and blasts spikes at both of them, and basically tries to open up the area to basically just better his chances at winning, hopefully. But unfortunately, that's not the case. He opens the area, and Azuku immediately shoots a small ki blast at his right shoulder, basically stunning one of his arms. He's actually unable to move unable to move his right arm. And Mirio goes in, punching him away from Eri as he grabs her. Are you okay? Yeah. Please be careful. I don't want him to kill you. Mirio comforts her, saying that he won't, and that he promises. And Overhaul is pissed and screams, "Give me back Eri!" And he blasts spikes at Mirio, and Mirio takes off, trying to avoid the spikes. And Azuku tells him to get out of here with the child, and that he will fight Overhaul. Mirio agrees, and he phases out of there with Eri, and basically brings her back through all the giant holes in the wall that Azuku made. Now, Overhaul, you can come nicely, or we can do it the hard way. It's really up to you. Overhaul scoffs at this, saying that he doesn't care that he defeated All For One. Oh, trained by the gods. Pish posh. It's 1 versus 1. Mano y mano. and Overhaul feels that he can defeat him. Unfortunately, Overhaul was very wrong. Very, very wrong. I've such a miscalculation that even math tutors would stare really oddly at him. Azuku immediately dashes at Overhaul and smashes his face into the wall, dragging him out, ki blasting him to the chest, and then kicking him. Overhaul realizes that he's already taken so much damage, and he basically tries to heal himself, exactly how he does in the anime and the manga, where he basically will cut off something and regrow it and with his quirk. And in a desperate attempt, he calls that massive being, the massive monster that basically, or a massive man that basically stalled the heroes, and he grabs him, demolecularizes him more or less, and just transforms back into a giant man. So Azuku stands in front of this Overhaul that has gained even more power than before. You think you can still beat me, kid? I won't let you defeat me. I have so much to offer society. Azuku scoffs at this, kicking him straight into the sky, and grabs onto him and begins flying upwards. And then he comes like a bullet down to the ground, slamming Overhaul into the ground. As he hits the ground, it felt as if his body parts were falling apart. Azuku knew that it was time to finish the fight, that it was over, and that these people weren't strong enough to keep up with him. So he goes to finish the fight, but what happens next is not good. Rumbles can be heard through the streets, and a massive monster appears. What? Another one. Distracted, he gets punched by Overhaul into the sky, but he's able to somewhat block, and he looks to see this monster. But it's like he's crying?
You killed Master All for One. Now I kill you.
Azuku is shocked and looks, and he realizes that this must be a servant of All for One. But how? How can All for One have such a powerful being under his possession? Even the punches that Azuku was blocking, he felt them, and he realized that dealing with both Overhaul and this giant monster would be a big problem. But then Overhaul disintegrates the monster. At least that's what Azuku thought. But Overhaul combined himself with the being by the name of Gigantomachia, and transformed himself into something further, something with multiple quirks, something that could overpower practically everyone in hero society. Azuku realized that this would be harder than he thought, and maybe he had to take drastic measures. He lifts his hands to the sky and began talking to Overhaul. I can't believe you need all this power from other people to even stand a chance. What a leader you are, huh? Overhaul is pissed at this and tells him to get the hell down here and say that to his face, and that he'll beat him senseless. These other heroes began to play kind of, mouse and cat and mouse, just dodging the Gigantomachia version of Overhaul, just dodging as much as possible, because they realized what Azuku was doing. Kami told them telepathically that Azuku is using something known as the Spirit Bomb, and it takes a lot of time to charge, so they need to stall, but it's a guarantee that it will defeat the monster. They agree, and so they stall as long as possible. And then as Azuku is about to finish, they all raise their hands to the sky and get very depleted and tired and kind of slightly collapse to the ground. Azuku can feel it. He hasn't used this technique in so long. He hasn't even used it to beat someone before. But he can feel the power the power of all the good people on this planet, all in one blast. And he breathes in and lets it drop upon himself. And he screams, and everyone else thinks that, oh no, that something went wrong and that he's going to die. But that's not what's happening. Azuku absorbs the spirit bomb. And when he does, his aura flares up like crazy. His hair begins to turn a lighter green, and his lightning that strikes around him shockwaves the earth everywhere. He charges at the monster, completely smashing through the hand that punches at him. And when he strikes Overhaul in the face, it obliterates his entire body. And then in a one just big blinding light, it's revealed that Overhaul, barely alive, sits there, just laying unconscious, almost dead. Azuku is panting, but is happy that he was able to get the job done. And he drags Overhaul to basically get cuffed and sent off to the police station. From here on out, Azuku realized that being a hero here would be beneficial, would be extremely beneficial for the society. So that's what he wants to do. He wants to make sure that he can protect everyone. And since King Kai already agreed to this, he wants to take that next step to being a hero. During class, or after one of the classes, Azuku actually talks to Aizawa about this. And Aizawa says that it's not too far-fetched for someone to jump to the pro hero level like that. And that if he wants to truly protect everyone, that he can. Thank you. I appreciate it. What would I have to do?
Kid, you've done enough. You'll get your hero license very soon. And I'm sure Night Eye will let you work with his agency. So, it's good to have you. It was good to have you, and I hope you come visit UA from time to time.
I will, of course. Of course. I would never just abandon you guys like that. Aizawa nods and tells Azuku that he's proud of him, and that he might have not have known him for very long, but he can tell that he was raised to be a very good man. Azuku smiles and thanks him, and says that maybe in another life, Aizawa was the one that was taking care of him, and he was able to live on Earth peacefully. Aizawa laughs at this and says, maybe. So Azuku leaves, and he actually goes to Night Eye's agency, and they employ him. I mean, for now. He finally gets his hero license, and Azuku Midoriya, the once Kai candidate, is now a hero in the making, on the path to be the greatest. And that is a wrap. It's over. That's a wrap for What If Deku Was Trained by King Kai. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As y'all know, I know there were some flaws in this. I'm sure there was. I'm not gonna rewatch everything to see what's wrong and what's not wrong. Like I said, there was zero script in this. I swear on everything, there was zero script. But if y'all enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. And make sure to comment down below if you enjoyed this video. And also, if you want to see more like this, I mean, this was pretty fun. I will say it didn't take me as much time to make a video by just freestyling stuff like this. But it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Do I prefer scripting? Probably, because there's some things I'm sure at the end of this video that I'm going to be like, damn, I wish I would have added that. But it's okay. I think at the end of the day, this What If came out kind of how I wanted it. So, like I said, I hope you all enjoyed. And yeah, have an amazing day. Later.